Let's face it, mono tracks are old school. Stereo tracks, multi-channel stereo tracks is the way to go.
Pre-chorus 2, 4. Pre-chorus 2, 3, 4.
You know, for years, I have ran click and guide on the left side of a stereo track and a bounce down mix on the right side, just a mono send. And for 20 years now, it's worked great. But recently, I've been a little bummed that I'm missing out on some of the magic that is within that stereo image of the backing tracks that we're using. And I'm kind of a weirdo. I actually run all of our backing tracks through ProPresenter. And so not Ableton, not Playback, not Prime, actually just a bounce down file within the ProPresenter timeline. And I'm going to show you how the recent updates that ProPresenter has given us with the audio improvements has allowed me now to send multi-channel audio out of ProPresenter into our broadcast mix, live house mix, all those things. And it's pretty simple. So to cut to the chase, essentially what we're doing is using a WAV file that contains multiple channels of audio within ProPresenter, and then we're choosing what those channels output as and where they are going. Then we're using an audio interface, the Focusrite 4i4 4th generation, that's been important for us, to send 3 different channels to our soundboard. One is the click and guide together, and then the other 2 channels, 1 and 2, is the stereo mix that I'm putting in the WAV file. So you can check the timestamps below if that's why you're here, and I'll walk you through how to do that. But why not just use Ableton or Playback or Prime and pay for the ability to go out of those things? Well, I have shown you before on the channel how I actually launch all of the tracks with a what's it called? An AirStep MIDI controller at my feet that's connected over Ethernet to our Mac Studio. And that is firing ProPresenter timelines. And so we kind of do things backwards where we send MIDI out of ProPresenter instead of sending MIDI in a lot of times, although we do that some. And there's a few reasons I've chosen to go this way. First of all, we're not a spontaneous worship type environment. We pretty much lock in how we're gonna do the songs in rehearsal and preparation. And if anything, we might tag a chorus or something like that where we don't necessarily need a click. The second reason I've done this is I just can't commit to Prime or MULTITRACKS or Ableton because, like with Ableton, you know, it's a bit of a learning curve and there's a cost involved there. With Prime and Playback, they're both great in their own rights, but I use tracks from other places as well that I get, and I don't want to have to like pay for the cloud thing and then upload it into the app and all that stuff. So what I've chosen to do is wherever I get the tracks from, I just create my own WAV file, typically just bring it into Audacity and export the 3-channel track out of there as a WAV file. So before we dive into the ProPresenter Mac backend, why did I go with this Scarlett 4i4 4th gen? Well, I wanted at least 4 outputs. And one thing I ran into was the way we run things here. When we're setting things up, we don't like to have the sound system on, and when everything's going out of the interface, I thought I could just use the headphone output of the 3rd gen that I bought, but it did not output channels 3 and 4. It only did channels 1 and 2. So we could never hear our click tracks to program lights and all those things. So what I've done here with the 4th gen, you can actually set up your own mix on that headphone output to be whatever you want it to be. And then that's actually going into this little speaker here, or headphones, or whatever you want it to do for the guys as they're programming in here. That way they can hear it without having to turn on the whole sound system. All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty. I'll dive into ProPresenter settings and all the boring stuff. But if you want to run it like this, I'll show you how. Okay, here we are in Audacity. You can see that I have the tracks left and right on the 1st and 2nd track, and then our click and guide there on the next track. So the magic happens when we go to export our audio and we choose a WAV file. Now when we go to custom mapping and we configure that, you can change your channel count for that WAV file all the way up to 32 channels. But let's do 3, and then you can see that it's just going to bounce down in that order. Now when we bring this into ProPresenter, if I go over to Echo Holy, and you can see that I drug Echo Holy onto the timeline here. You can see it has channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, just like it is in Audacity. If we go to the audio section and we check our routing, it's automatically going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is how we want it to go, because to get this to work, you're going to go into your preferences, audio section, and then you're going to change your channel count up here of your audio to the number of channels you want. For us, it's 5 because we're also sending some stuff on SDI for custom video stuff. But for you, you would just do 3. And then I actually have it where on the inspector playback, it's going to play back on our Mac Studio speakers, but on our main playback, it's going to use our Scarlett 4i4 4th gen. Now, the routing section is, you can go in and rename these things. This is how you're going to route out of your interface, your tracks rig, whatever you're going to use, Dante, anything, however it's set up, and choose where things are going. So you can, move things around, set them up how they need to go. Tracks left is going to be on output 1, tracks 2 is going to be 2, click is going to be on our 3rd output, so on and so forth. And that corresponds to your inspector audio channel routing section, okay? And so now, like if I play praise, you can see here that our click is going on the 3rd channel and our tracks are playing back on 1 and 2. Those are being sent to our soundboard, and on the soundboard they are being panned left and right. Now the second half of this would be getting it into your soundboard and routed correctly in your soundboard. For us, the time it takes for video to show up on our projector is about 134 milliseconds delayed. So I've actually delayed that in ProPresenter before it hits over to our soundboard. And then within our M32, we use a post-fader bus mix. And so I've gone in and panned hard left and hard right on that stereo linked channels for our tracks and just set those accordingly. And again, that's not affecting our house mix because it's still a mono mix. I did find that I had to lower those channel gains about 3 dB each to match what it was when it was just one channel coming through the soundboard. And there's a lot of ways you can accomplish this. You could use the AES50 USB if you're not currently using that on like your digital board. You could use Dante, you could use a Behringer mixer, you could use a tracks rig from Loop Community. For us though, this Scarlett 4i4 did the job because it got us the 4 outputs we needed plus the independent headphone mix. So I even have the ability, if like one of my instrumentalists is not going to be here, bass guitarist or something like that, I could throw their track, that WAV file, into, or MP3 even, into ProPresenter to play alongside the 3-channel WAV file as a last minute resort if I needed to. So there you go, guys. I wanted to go ahead and make this move because in the coming months we're going to be remodeling and everything will be moving stereo anyways. So this way every week I'm just kind of adding to our stereo track library, 3-channel tracks library as we go. And who knows, maybe one of these days I'll see the light and just go over to Ableton and have everything fired from there. But I'm not there yet, so baby steps, right? We're just moving in the right direction, hopefully. All right, if you have any questions about how we're doing this, if I went too fast, drop it in the comments. If you've got a cool way that you're doing this, I know like Brad Zimmerman does it over SDI embedded channels and then breaks them out. There's lots of ways you can do this and accomplish it. But it's like I always say, remember, we can do a lot of great things, but let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.